On her first day as manager, Mia Thompson faces blatant racism from Ethan Carter. The next day, Ethan is stunned to realize Mia holds the key to the restaurant's future leadership. The restaurant was full of energy, with the sound of chatter and glasses clinking in the background. The smell of delicious food filled the air as the waitstaff hurried from table to table. Mia Thompson walked in, her heels clicking against the smooth floor. She felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. Today was her first day in a new leadership role. The warm lighting in the restaurant made everything feel cozy and inviting, but Mia could sense there was more to it than that. The atmosphere felt heavy, as if there were unspoken rules everyone followed. The staff moved quickly, and a few of them glanced at Mia, as though wondering if she really belonged in charge. Mia wasn't just any employee. She was stepping into a leadership position. But there was one problem. Ethan Carter, the manager, didn't believe she deserved to be there. Mia could feel it in the way he ignored her ideas and treated her with little respect. She knew today would be the day things would change. Mia was ready to face him. Mia Thompson was in her late 20s, tall with an easy smile, but there was more to her than just her looks. She had always been determined, working hard to get where she was. From a young age, Mia learned that nothing would be handed to her. Growing up, she faced plenty of challenges, being the only woman in many of her classes, often being the youngest one in the room. But that only made her stronger. At work, Mia was known for her sharp mind and strong leadership skills. She had worked at the restaurant for 5 years, starting as a server, moving up through the ranks, and eventually earning a place in the management team. Her colleagues respected her because she was fair, hardworking, and always ready to listen. She was someone you could count on. But there was one person who didn't see her that way: Ethan Carter, the restaurant's manager. From the start, Mia had felt his coldness toward her. He never seemed to take her seriously, always dismissing her ideas. Mia knew that this was just one more obstacle she had to overcome, and today she was ready to prove that she belonged in her new role. It had been only a few days since Mia was promoted to a leadership role at the restaurant, but the tension with Ethan had already begun to build. She had noticed his dismissive attitude toward her from the moment she stepped into the new position. Where others greeted her with excitement, Ethan barely acknowledged her presence. His coldness wasn't just in his actions. It was in the way he spoke to her, like she didn't belong there. One afternoon, Mia called a meeting with the team to discuss a new strategy for improving customer service. She had worked hard on it, analyzing past reviews and gathering ideas from the staff. As she began explaining the plan, Ethan interrupted her before she could finish. "This idea won't work," he said bluntly, shaking his head. "You're trying to change things that don't need changing. The regulars like things the way they are. We don't need to overcomplicate it." Mia tried to stay calm, even though his words stung. She had spent hours thinking about this strategy, and she believed it could improve the restaurant's atmosphere. But Ethan made it clear that he didn't trust her judgment. "I understand your point, Ethan," Mia replied, keeping her voice steady. "But I've talked to the staff and looked at the reviews. People are asking for more variety. We need to adapt." Ethan's face hardened, his gaze never leaving hers. "Well, I don't agree, and I'm the one in charge here, not you." The room fell silent. Mia's heart raced. She could feel the weight of his words. This wasn't just about a disagreement. It was about something deeper. Ethan didn't respect her, and it was becoming clear he wasn't going to make her job easy. Escalation of tension. In the days following their first disagreement, Mia felt a growing sense of unease every time she entered the restaurant. The once vibrant, welcoming space now felt heavy. It wasn't just the work, it was Ethan. His cold, dismissive behavior had escalated. Mia tried to stay focused on her job, but she couldn't ignore the fact that Ethan seemed determined to undermine her at every turn. It started with small things. One day during a staff meeting, Mia asked the team to review the schedule and suggest improvements. As she spoke, she could feel Ethan's eyes on her. His usual confident posture had turned into something more tense. He didn't interrupt her this time, but when she asked for feedback, he refused to participate. Instead, he remained silent, folding his arms as if waiting for her to fail. Mia tried to keep her composure, but the frustration was building inside her. She had been promoted because of her hard work, her understanding of the business, and her ability to lead. She had earned her place, yet here was Ethan, acting like he was still in charge, like her opinions didn't matter. The tension came to a head one Friday evening, one of the busiest nights at the restaurant. The dining room was full, and the waitstaff was moving fast to keep up with orders. Mia was managing the floor, trying to ensure everything ran smoothly. She had noticed a few problems with the kitchen staff. They were running behind with orders, and customers were starting to complain. Mia immediately stepped in, trying to fix the issue before it got worse. She walked into the kitchen to speak with Jake, the head chef. "Jake, we're falling behind with table four's order," she said, trying to keep her voice calm. "Is there a problem with the kitchen?" Jake sighed, wiping his hands on his apron. "We've got a backup. It's nothing we can't handle, Mia, but I need Ethan to make some adjustments with the timing." Mia nodded, then turned to find Ethan, who was standing near the front counter, talking to one of the waiters. She approached him, her tone firm but polite. "Ethan, we're falling behind in the kitchen. Can you talk to the waitstaff and help move things along?" Ethan turned to her slowly, his expression unreadable. "I'm not going to micromanage the kitchen, Mia. That's not my job." Mia's heart skipped a beat. She tried to remain calm. "We need to keep things moving. This is a team effort. If you see an issue, we need to work together." Ethan shook his head and turned back to the waiter, ignoring Mia completely. She stood there for a moment, feeling a mix of anger and disbelief. This wasn't just about managing a shift anymore. This was about something much bigger. Ethan was challenging her authority at every opportunity. The rest of the night was a blur. The kitchen staff worked as fast as they could, but without Ethan's help, things got worse. Customers started to complain about the delays, and Mia had to apologize over and over again, doing her best to salvage the situation. She worked tirelessly, managing the floor and trying to support the kitchen, but it was clear that Ethan's refusal to step up had made the problem worse. By the time the last customer left, Mia felt exhausted. Her body ached from the long hours, and her mind was tired from trying to maintain control over a situation that felt out of her hands. She looked around the empty restaurant, noticing the tired faces of the remaining staff members. They had worked hard, but the night had been a failure in many ways. As Mia began to clean up her area, Ethan approached her, his face unreadable. "We need to talk," he said, his tone low and serious. Mia nodded, trying to steady herself. She had been waiting for this moment, but she didn't know how it would go. She followed him to the back office, where the atmosphere felt colder than usual. Once they were alone, Ethan spoke again. "You can't keep doing this, Mia. You're not ready for this role. You're trying to change everything too quickly, and it's causing chaos. People are going to start resenting you." Mia felt a rush of frustration. "I'm not trying to change everything. I'm trying to improve things. We're falling behind. The staff is working hard, but we need to be more efficient." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "You don't know what you're talking about. You're not in charge here, Mia. I am. I've been doing this for years. You can't just come in here and think you can fix everything." His words stung, more than she expected. Mia clenched her fists, trying to control the anger bubbling inside her. "I don't need you to tell me what I can and can't do. I'm the one in charge now, and I'm going to fix this place, with or without your help." Ethan stood up, his voice rising. "You think you can just boss everyone around? You're not ready for this, Mia. You're making a mistake." The tension in the room was thick. Mia's heart was pounding in her chest. She couldn't back down now. She had worked too hard, fought too long, to let Ethan intimidate her into giving up her position. "I'm not making a mistake," she said, her voice steady but firm. "I'm doing what's best for this restaurant. And if you can't support that, then maybe you're the one who's in the wrong place." For a moment, Ethan stood there glaring at her. Then, without saying another word, he stormed out of the office. Mia stood there, breathing heavily, her mind racing. The confrontation had been tense, but it was clear now. This wasn't just about managing a restaurant. It was about her proving to Ethan and to everyone that she had earned her place in charge. The battle had just begun. The days following the confrontation with Ethan were some of the hardest Mia had ever faced at work. The restaurant's atmosphere had shifted, and it wasn't just the staff who felt it. Mia could sense the change in herself too. She had never expected her new role to come with so much tension. But as each day passed, the weight of her responsibilities felt heavier. Every decision, every interaction with Ethan seemed like a battle. She was constantly second-guessing herself, wondering if she was doing the right thing. Ethan's harsh words echoed in her mind. "You're not ready for this role. You can't just come in and change everything." Mia had worked so hard to get to this point. She had spent years proving herself, working her way up from a server to a leader. Yet Ethan made her feel like none of it mattered, like she didn't belong. She had been hoping that time would make things easier, but it wasn't. Instead, Ethan's behavior became more passive-aggressive. He would make snide comments in front of the staff, or he'd dismiss her ideas without explanation. It was as if he was trying to break her down, trying to make her doubt her place. And in those quiet moments, when she was alone with her thoughts, Mia couldn't help but wonder if he was right. Was she really cut out for this? Her self-doubt began to affect her work. At first, it was small things. She'd hesitate when giving instructions to the team, unsure if they would take her seriously. She'd overthink every decision, questioning if it was the right call. The restaurant's numbers began to drop, and complaints from customers started to rise. Mia felt the pressure mounting. She couldn't afford to fail, not just for her own sake, but for the entire team. One night, after a particularly long shift, Mia sat in the office, staring at the reports on her computer. The restaurant had lost more business that week than she'd hoped. She rubbed her temples, feeling the exhaustion settle into her bones. She couldn't keep going like this. She was stuck in a loop of self-doubt, and it was starting to affect her leadership. She had always been confident. She'd faced challenges before, but this was different. The constant conflict with Ethan, the pressure to prove herself, and the mounting tension had begun to eat away at her confidence. Mia had always prided herself on her ability to handle pressure, but this time, she felt like she was sinking. Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. It was Jessica, one of the waitstaff, looking hesitant. "Mia," Jessica said, her voice soft, "I just wanted to check in on you. I know things have been tough lately. We're all behind you, you know." Mia looked up, surprised by the kindness. "Thanks, Jessica," she said, trying to smile. "I appreciate it. I just feel like I'm not doing enough. Like I'm not good enough for this." Jessica stepped into the room, sitting across from Mia. "Mia, we've all seen how hard you've worked. You're the reason a lot of us even stayed with the restaurant. You've got this. Just don't let Ethan get to you." Mia's eyes stung. The support from Jessica meant more than she could say, but the doubt still lingered. Ethan wasn't the only one questioning her. She was questioning herself. "I'm trying, Jessica. I'm really trying, but every day feels like a fight. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up." Jessica gave her a reassuring smile. "You're stronger than you think. You just need to keep believing in yourself. We all do." As Jessica left the office, Mia sat there for a long time, her mind swirling. She had never felt so lost before. The fear of failure was paralyzing, but there was something else, something deep inside her that refused to give up. She couldn't let Ethan or her own doubts win. Mia knew she had to push forward, even if she didn't feel ready. The struggle wasn't over, but for the first time in days, Mia felt a flicker of hope. She couldn't afford to quit now. She had to fight for her place, for herself. As the days went on, Mia found herself relying more and more on the people around her. Despite Ethan's coldness and the pressure she felt, there were others in the restaurant who still believed in her. These people helped her stay grounded, reminding her of her worth when everything felt like it was falling apart. One of the most important people in Mia's corner was Jake, the head chef. Jake had worked at the restaurant for years, and though he wasn't always vocal about his opinions, Mia had always felt a mutual respect between them. Over the past few weeks, Jake had noticed the tension between Mia and Ethan, and he could tell it was affecting her. One evening, as Mia was organizing the front-of-house staff, Jake pulled her aside in the kitchen. "Hey, Mia," he said quietly, his voice low. "Don't let Ethan get to you. We all see what you're doing. The changes you're trying to make, they'll pay off. Just keep pushing." Mia smiled, grateful for his words. "Thanks, Jake. It means a lot coming from you." Jake had always been someone who kept his head down and focused on his work. He wasn't one to get involved in office politics, but his support meant the world to Mia. In that moment, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she could get through this. Then there was Jessica, one of the newer waitstaff members, who had been with the restaurant for only a few months but had quickly earned Mia's trust. Jessica was fresh, enthusiastic, and eager to learn. She saw Mia as a role model and would often come to her for advice, whether it was about work or personal matters. One evening, after a particularly difficult shift, Jessica found Mia alone in the office. "Mia, I know things haven't been easy," Jessica said gently, "but I want you to know, we're all behind you. The team respects you. Don't forget that." Mia was touched. She knew the team respected her, but hearing it from someone so new, someone who hadn't been there to witness her struggle, gave her a renewed sense of strength. Jessica's words reminded her that her leadership wasn't just about the challenges she faced with Ethan. It was about how she helped the team grow. And then there was Kyle, one of the senior waiters, who had been with the restaurant since it opened. Kyle had seen managers come and go, and he had a clear sense of what worked and what didn't. He had always been a quiet supporter of Mia, giving her small nods of approval when she made decisions or handled situations with grace. One night, after a particularly hectic service, Kyle pulled Mia aside. "You're doing great. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise," he said, his voice low but firm. "You've got what it takes. Just keep doing what you're doing." Mia didn't need much more than that. Kyle's simple affirmation reminded her that her work was being noticed by people who mattered. She wasn't alone in this struggle. There were people who believed in her and her ability to lead. The tension between Mia and Ethan had been building for weeks. Every shift felt like a battle, with Ethan making subtle digs at her authority and undermining her decisions. Mia had reached her breaking point. She couldn't let it go on any longer. It was time to confront Ethan directly and put an end to this. It all came to a head one busy evening when the restaurant was full and customers were starting to get impatient. Mia had just finished handling a complicated situation with a customer when she saw Ethan standing near the bar, arms crossed, looking as cold and distant as ever. She could feel the anger rising inside her, but she knew she had to keep her cool. She walked up to him, her heart pounding in her chest. "Ethan, we need to talk," she said firmly, her voice steady despite the emotions swirling inside her. Ethan turned to her, his face blank. "What about?" Mia took a deep breath, trying to keep her emotions in check. "This can't go on any longer. I'm not going to stand by and let you undermine me every chance you get. I'm your manager and I deserve respect. I've earned it." Ethan's eyes narrowed. He took a step closer, his tone cold. "Respect? You think you've earned respect? You're not ready for this job. You're just a kid playing manager. I've been doing this for years and you're just in way over your head." Mia's fists clenched at her sides. She could feel the heat in her chest, but she didn't back down. "I'm not a kid, and I'm not here by accident. I've worked hard for everything I've earned. I'm not going to let you make me doubt myself anymore." Ethan scoffed, shaking his head. "You're delusional. The staff doesn't respect you, Mia. They all see through you. You're not cut out for this." Mia felt her stomach churn. She had heard the rumors before, but hearing them from Ethan's mouth stung. But instead of letting it crush her, she found her voice. "You don't get to decide that," she said, her voice more confident now. "The team respects me because I've earned it. I've put in the work. I've made changes that are already paying off, and I'm not going to let you tear that down. You don't own this place, Ethan." "I do." The silence between them felt deafening. Mia could see the anger in Ethan's eyes, but she also saw something else. Fear. For the first time, it seemed like he was actually worried. His posture stiffened, and for a moment, it seemed like he might say something more. But instead, he took a step back, his expression hardening. "You think you've won?" he asked, his voice low. "Fine, but don't expect me to support you." "I don't need your support," Mia said, her voice strong. "I've got everything I need right here." She motioned to the restaurant and the people who depended on her. Ethan's face twisted in frustration, but he didn't argue further. He turned and walked away, leaving Mia standing in the middle of the room, her heart still racing, but her mind clearer than it had been in weeks. For the first time, Mia realized something important. This was her restaurant now. Ethan could try to tear her down, but he couldn't take away what she had worked for. The confrontation wasn't just a fight for respect. It was the moment she fully stepped into her role as the leader of the team. The days following Mia's confrontation with Ethan were tense, but something had shifted. Ethan's cold, dismissive attitude was still present, but it wasn't the same. He had lost the confidence he once had, the kind of arrogance that made him believe he could get away with anything. Mia's words had hit him harder than he expected. It was during a busy lunch rush when the true impact of the confrontation began to show. Ethan, usually the one to run the show behind the scenes, was struggling. His usual quick decisions were no longer there. His sharp criticisms of staff were quieter, less forceful. For the first time, the rest of the team began to notice the cracks in his facade. Mia was overseeing the dining room when she saw Ethan at the bar, pacing back and forth. His face was pale, and his hands trembled slightly as he wiped down glasses. She knew he was struggling to maintain control. He was unraveling. During a brief lull in the service, Mia walked over to him. "Ethan, you okay?" she asked, her voice not unkind but direct. Ethan looked at her, his eyes betraying a mix of frustration and confusion. I don't get it," he muttered almost to himself. "I've been here for years. I've always known what to do. But now it's like everything is falling apart." Mia didn't respond right away. She had watched him for weeks, but she knew the only way he could change was if he faced this moment. "You've been here a long time, Ethan, but things change. People change. You can't hold on to the past." Ethan looked down at the counter, his hands gripping the edge, as though the words were too much to bear. "I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if I can." For the first time, Mia saw vulnerability in him, something more human than the arrogance he had shown before. But she didn't offer him sympathy. This was his battle to fight. The aftermath of Mia's confrontation with Ethan was quiet, but the impact was felt throughout the restaurant. Ethan no longer tried to undermine Mia's authority. His comments were fewer, and when he did speak, his words were laced with uncertainty. Mia knew he wasn't fully defeated, but he had lost some of the power he once held over the team. For Mia, the immediate relief was palpable. The weight of Ethan's constant criticism had been lifted, and she could finally focus on her role as manager without the constant fear of being undermined. But it wasn't an easy victory. Ethan's presence still loomed over her, and she couldn't ignore the tension that remained in the air. Some of the staff were still unsure about her leadership. They had seen Ethan as the face of the restaurant for so long, and though Mia had gained their respect, it would take time to fully earn their trust. Mia spent the next few weeks working even harder to prove herself. She made sure to keep communication open with the team, encouraging feedback and offering support. Slowly, things began to improve. The restaurant's numbers started to climb again, and the staff seemed more unified. Ethan, on the other hand, became increasingly isolated. His confidence was gone, and he no longer had the same control over the team. Some of the senior staff began to question his decisions, and they started looking to Mia for guidance instead. Mia knew she had won a small battle, but the real work was just beginning. She had to keep pushing forward, not just for herself, but for the team who had come to rely on her leadership. As time passed, the ripples from the confrontation with Ethan slowly faded, but the lasting impact was felt by everyone at the restaurant. Mia had won not only a personal victory, but also a collective one for the team. Slowly, the minor conflicts that had been bubbling beneath the surface started to resolve. One of the key changes was how the team's dynamic began to shift. The once divided staff, with some supporting Ethan and others quietly backing Mia, began to come together. The senior waiters like Kyle and Jessica, who had stood by Mia, felt more confident in their roles. Mia made it clear that the restaurant wasn't just about one person, it was about the entire team working together. She listened to their concerns, addressed issues quickly, and made sure everyone felt heard. Jessica, who had been uncertain about the changes at first, grew into a more confident and reliable member of the team. She no longer looked to Mia for constant reassurance. Instead, Jessica started stepping up, offering ideas and helping with training new staff. It was clear that Mia's leadership had inspired growth in her, just as it had in others. Jake, the head chef, also became more engaged. While he'd always been supportive, he now took a more active role in helping Mia with operational decisions. His trust in her was a huge factor in improving the restaurant's kitchen operations, which in turn improved service quality and customer satisfaction. Ethan, meanwhile, became more of a background figure. While he didn't leave the restaurant, his presence became less significant. He continued to do his job, but the respect and influence he once held over the staff were gone. Mia had claimed her position, and the team followed her lead. The minor struggles, doubts from the staff, Ethan's resistance, and even Mia's own moments of insecurity had all been resolved. Now the restaurant was moving forward with a new sense of unity and purpose, driven by Mia's steady leadership. As Mia stood at the front of the restaurant one quiet evening, watching the staff work together seamlessly, she felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. It had been a long road, filled with challenges and moments of doubt, but now everything felt different. The restaurant was thriving, and the team was stronger than ever. Mia had learned a lot about herself through the journey, about resilience, leadership, and what it truly meant to earn respect. Looking back, she realized that the confrontation with Ethan hadn't just been about standing up for herself. It had been a turning point for everyone. Ethan's breakdown had forced him to confront his own insecurities, and although he wasn't fully ready to change, it had shifted the power dynamic. But more importantly, Mia had found her voice. She had stepped into her role as a leader, not just in title, but in action. Mia also understood the importance of surrounding herself with the right people. Jake, Kyle, Jessica, and the rest of the team had supported her when things seemed impossible. Their belief in her had given her the strength to keep going, even when she wanted to quit. It wasn't just her victory, it was theirs too. As she glanced around the restaurant, Mia knew the work wasn't over. Leadership was an ongoing process, and she would continue to grow and learn. But the foundation had been laid. She had earned her place at the top, and more importantly, she had earned the trust and respect of the people who mattered most, her team. In that moment, Mia realized that true leadership wasn't about control. It was about empowering others to succeed, together. As Mia looked toward the future, she knew the journey wasn't over. The challenges she faced with Ethan had taught her valuable lessons, but she understood that leadership was an ongoing process. There would be more obstacles ahead, but she was ready to face them. The foundation had been set, but growth required constant effort. Mia's commitment to fostering a fair and inclusive environment became even stronger after her experience. She understood now more than ever that leadership wasn't just about managing tasks, it was about building trust, promoting respect, and creating opportunities for others to thrive. She made it her mission to ensure that no one, regardless of their position, would ever have to face the kind of discrimination and undermining she had. With her team behind her, Mia focused on creating an atmosphere where everyone's ideas and concerns were heard. She encouraged open communication, where feedback was welcomed and valued. No longer would staff feel like their voices were ignored. She believed that when people felt supported, they gave their best effort. She also became more proactive in addressing any signs of unfair treatment or favoritism, ensuring that every team member, from the kitchen staff to the waiters, felt equally respected. Mia didn't just want a successful restaurant. She wanted a place where people loved to work, where they felt like part of something bigger than themselves. As the restaurant continued to grow, Mia set the tone for a future where inclusivity, respect, and growth were the pillars of success. She knew that with her leadership, the team would continue to excel, creating not only a thriving business, but a positive, empowering work environment. Mia's journey had been long, difficult, and filled with challenges, but in the end, it was all worth it. From the moment she stood up to Ethan, everything began to change. The restaurant was no longer a place filled with tension and division. Instead, it became a place of unity, respect, and hard work. Mia had not only earned her role as manager, she had transformed the team and the entire atmosphere of the restaurant. What Mia had realized through it all was that leadership wasn't just about authority, it was about connection. Connecting with her team, understanding their struggles, and empowering them to be the best versions of themselves. She had learned that strength came from being vulnerable, and that true success wasn't measured by how much control you had, but by how much trust you earned from others. Ethan's fall from grace had been hard to witness, but it was also necessary. His breakdown had shown everyone that no one is infallible, and that even those who seemed untouchable could be brought down by their own actions. For Mia, it was a reminder that leadership required self-awareness and a willingness to change. In the end, Mia stood as a symbol of resilience, determination, and fairness. She had turned a difficult situation into an opportunity for growth, for herself and for everyone around her. She didn't just want to be a manager, she wanted to be someone who inspired others to rise above challenges and believe in their own potential. The future was full of promise. Mia had already faced the hardest battles and come out stronger on the other side. And as she looked ahead, she knew she was ready to lead, to empower, and to continue building a team where everyone could thrive. In a world where injustice and discrimination are still deeply rooted, standing up can feel overwhelming. But Mia's story shows us that even the smallest act of resistance makes a difference. Change is possible, and it starts with us. Never forget, no one is powerless when we choose to fight for what's right. Thank you for watching. Join the fight for justice, equality, and reform. Let's continue the conversation. Share, comment, and subscribe to stay involved.